Hey guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. This time we are in Bovec in Slovenia, and we happen to come across a little brewery tap room really randomly. So just behind me is Thirsty River Brewing, and we are going to go in and do as we always do. We'll have a little walk around, we'll have a look at the tap list, we'll try some of the beers, and yeah, hopefully we've got some nice things here. But this was a really random find while we were driving through the Slovenian Alps. Let's get started. So yeah guys, just look at this. This is Thirsty River Brewing, but look at the scenery you have there. The Slovenian Alps, it's just awesome. Yeah, you've got a big cement mixer going through the town right at the moment, but yeah, this place is just absolutely beautiful. We had an awesome time just driving through here, but this place is really cool. If we come over the right side here, you can see the Thirsty River Brewing symbol, which is pretty nice. Because yeah, Bovec goes, it's very pretty. There's a river that goes right by it, and that's what it's famous for. But yeah, this place was founded back in 2017 by an American guy and a Slovenian woman. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But you come in, and it's nice and cool inside. It's very warm outside today. You've got this little inside tap room, which is really cool. I do like all the different kind of masks and artworks and things there. There's the tap list, but we'll look at that more closely in a minute. There you can see beer to go. A few other things in the fridge. Some really nice artwork. And then yeah, you've got the bar here. The guy's working behind the bar. But yeah, my cousin's sitting outside with his lager. So here he is, enjoying his lager, texting his girlfriend. So we're going to get our beers in a second and do little tastings. Let's get started on this one. Nice surprise at Thirsty River Brewing. Alright guys, so these are the 4 beers we're going for. We have the Styrian Blonde to start off with, Magnetic Rock IPA, These Nuts, which is a brown ale, and then we have the off-season quadruple. So quite a nice selection actually. If I remember correctly, this will be the first Slovenian quadruple I've ever tried. So that's pretty cool. Love that style, not one you find too often. Alright guys, so a little quick look at the tap list for you then. So as you can see, Just Lager, 5.2% ABV, the Styrian Blonde, a blonde ale at 5.4%, Caveman Stout, 5.4. You don't see too many low alcohol stouts about these days. Scorpion Chili Stout, the Amber Ale, another kind of unusual style these days, the Cabby Pale Ale, Magnetic Rock IPA, Pamela's Passion Fruit Sour, These Nuts, the Nut Brown, Bovec Warmer, a malt liquor, Mixed Message, Hybrid Beer Wine, and then the off-season quadruple. So yeah, really nice tap list here. Quite unusual styles actually, but that's what's always fun about coming to these brewery tap rooms. Alright guys, well, time for our first beer tasting then here at Magic River. So the first beer that we're going for is the Styrian Blonde. Comes in at 5.2% ABV. When it poured, it came out with just about a half finger of a frothy, I would say cream coloured head. And as you can see, it's got that lovely pale golden straw blonde colour that you would expect. The Styrian region, of course, is very well known for its hops, you know, from the times of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and now in Slovenia. So yeah, to have a Styrian hopped blonde ale, I think, is pretty cool. So yeah, 5.2% of this one or 2 big bubbles in the bottom and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head. But appearance-wise, this is exactly what you would expect from any kind of blonde ale, I guess. Let's look at the aroma and see what we get out of this one. Yeah, aroma-wise, this is very nice. Straight away, it has, you know, it's just a really nice, light, kind of easygoing beer. So backbone of this one, absolutely a little bit of bread crust, some fresh, fluffy white bread in there. Also getting a good little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of aroma. It's got that little bit of sweetness that you want from the blonde ale. I'm quite curious as to whether this is going to be more of like a kind of English golden ale or English blonde ale as you could call it, or if it's going to be a little bit kind of Belgian in nature. We'll just need to wait and see. But yeah, on the malty side of things, it is really quite nice, as I say. A little bit of bread crust, a little bit of a woody, crackery sort of thing going on as well, some fluffy white bread, and on top of that, you've got some nice McVitie's digestive biscuit. Lovely smelling beer, I have to say, this one. I really like how the aroma of this goes together. Yeah, on the hoppy side of things, little touch of earthiness, a little bit floral, nice little bit of grassiness as well, and you've also got just a wee touch of you know, you've just got that little bit lighter grassiness too. On the fruity side of things, I would say no kind of typical. You've got a little bit of that sort of peary note to it, a little bit of a kind of dried apricot, you know, yeah, a little bit of dried apricot, a little bit of kind of peary quality to it, maybe just a little hint of that kind of grassy, that limey, grassy sort of thing that you can get. But a really nice smelling blonde ale, this one. So let's have a taste of our first beer here at Magic River Brewing then. So yeah, this one is the Styrian Blonde, 5.2% ABV, Slanja, Skål, na zdravie. Ooh, that's really nice. I'm going to say straight away, that is more of a kind of English blonde ale actually. It's not got the big kind of yeasty Belgian characteristics, but it is very, very nice. Just really nice and refreshing. It's really hot outside, so yeah, this is pretty damn good, I have to say. It's a nice just first introduction to the brewery, I have to say. But yeah, for me, good little bit of bread crust in this one. Quite a little bit of brown bread actually. I'm surprised at how kind of grainy this one is compared to the Aroma. So yeah, a little bit of bread crust, some brown bread. You definitely get a wee bit of a white bready character in there as well. And there's also, yeah, there's also that little bit of, you'd also get that little bit of sweetness that you want in the middle of the palate too. So there's a wee touch of like a slightly honey note in the middle of your palate. As you move further out toward the edges, it's a little bit more McVitie's digestive biscuit-like. And yeah, it works. The malty backbone of this is good. You do get a little bit more of a yeasty character on the back third of your palate, but that's kind of common, of course. But yeah, back corners of the palate, you get a nice little bit of, you do get a nice little bit of a kind of earthiness coming out of this one. So yeah, you can feel that as you move further forward. It's a little bit herbal, then you move to a nice kind of smooth floral character, and this is the characteristic I've always found with Slovenian hops. The note, they're very similar to the German noble and the Czech noble hops, but yeah, they've always just got this lovely smoothness to them, and that comes out in spades in this beer. Round the front curve of the palate, you've got a little bit of a lighter grassiness as well, and just a wee touch of zestiness. On the front third of your palate with the fruity part of the beer, it's kind of as we said in the Aroma, there's a little bit of a dried apricot underneath. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of an oily peary sort of thing, and yeah, I think it goes together very, very well. So yeah, it's really nicely done, this one, in terms of blonde ale. So I would say the mouthfeel of this one is quite light-bodied, kind of top end of light-bodied. The carbonation does have a degree of crispness to it. The beer overall is quite nice and smooth. Malty base has a little bit of sweetness to it, but again, as I say, quite smooth. IBUs, I think, is about 20-ish in this one, which is common for the style, and it's got a little bit of fruity character as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one is the Styrian Blonde, 5.2% ABV, our first beer tasting here at Magic River. Let's leave it at that for just now, and we'll go on to the next beer in just a second. So yeah guys, I felt these deserved a little bit more attention. These masks are just pretty awesome. So yeah, especially the elephant one. Elephants are the best, love those animals. But yeah, these seem to be from kind of all over the world. This is just pretty cool. So yeah, maybe not the place to come if you have been enjoying a little bit of herbal medicine. There's a few of these remind me of Crash Bandicoot as well. But yeah, there you go. Pretty awesome. But yeah, there's Mr. Elephant Man. Alright guys, well, time for beer tasting number 2. So we're going to go to something a little bit more hoppy this time. So the next beer that we have is called Magnetic Rock. Now this one comes in at 6.3% ABV, and it is an IPA. I'm not sure exactly what type of IPA it's going to be, but by the looks of it, I think it's going to be more of a kind of old school West Coast one. So when this beer poured, it had just under a finger of a frothy, I would say kind of cream, slightly ivory coloured head, and you can see that it's got this lovely light amber note to it. It is crystal clear, and you can see one or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there, but overall it looks pretty nice. But for me, appearance wise, this seems like it's definitely going to be a West Coast IPA. But you guys know, if you've watched the channel for any length of time, I love West Coast IPAs, so this should hopefully be very nice. Let's look at the aroma of this one then. Yeah, West Coast all the way. It's got that lovely little bit of oily sweetness to it, the deeper hops, and then you've got that big oily fruity note. This, I think, smells very, very nice. Let's break that down for you a wee bit more. So, malty backbone of this beer, a little bit of bread crust, you've got that lovely, slightly sweet brown bready character in there. Yeah, it's got quite a bit of an oily, for me, this one has got a bit of straight up caramel in it, but mainly it's this lovely big oily sort of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing I'm getting out of this. Yeah, that's everything you would want from a West Coast IPA. The kind of more boozy caramelly note, the kind of sweeter biscuity note. I do think this one leans toward that oily biscuity character a little bit more. But then you've also got, you do also have just that little bit of kind of crackery note to this as well, which is quite nice too. So yeah, bread crust, brown bread, sweet caramel, a little bit of biscuit, and also a wee bit of a crackery note to it. On the hoppy side of things, it's quite interesting. So for me, there's a little bit of earthiness to this one, but quite minimal. The green component has a nice little bit of depth to it, so you do get a little touch of that slightly piney resinous sort of thing, but you're also getting quite a nice big oily floral component, which I do like. Yes, you get that nice big oily floral component, some bright oily grassy notes in there, and I think that goes together really, really well. Yeah, aroma wise on the green component, it is quite nice. I get the feeling though this is going to be more of a modern West Coast IPA without quite the, you know, the 80, 90 IBUs that we used to get from this style back in the day, but we'll see what it comes out like in the flavour. You can sometimes be surprised with these beers. So yeah, remember, West Coast IPAs use all three types of hopping. Early edition hops, which are the ones that give you all the bitterness, or most of the bitterness I should say. Late edition hopping within the last half hour of the wort boil, that gives you a little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour and aroma. Then dry hopping will give you pretty much all flavour and aroma. New England IPAs use mainly late and dry hopping, whereas West Coast IPAs will use all three. The depth of the green component of this one though makes me think there is a bit of early edition hopping going on here. But on the fruity side of things, this one smells quite old school. I wonder if there's Cascade in this. It has that slightly grapefruity but also kind of figgy note that you can get from Cascade. Very familiar with Cascade because of some of my local beers back home in the motherland of Scotland. So yeah, you can smell that little bit of grapefruit. Love a little bit of a kind of figgy oily character in there as well, as we say. But I'm also getting some kind of slightly juicy mango-y notes and a wee bit of orange too. But yeah, quite a strong grapefruit and passion fruit, bit of mango, and I think a wee bit of orange. Really lovely old school smelling West Coast IPA, this one. So let's have a taste of this and see how we go. This is the Magnetic Rock, 6.3% ABV, quite obviously a West Coast IPA. So let's do this. Sláinte, skål, cheers, na zdravie. Oh yeah, that's very nice. It's got this lovely biscuity note to it. It's sweet, it's oily, and it does have that kind of slightly more dank hop character to it. That's a very, very nice West Coast IPA. I like this. Let's break it down for you then. Middle of your palate, definitely a little bit of a bread crusty backbone there. You get that really nice kind of more grainy character out of this one. That's gets a bit stronger at the back of your palate. On top of that, there's a lovely kind of brown bready note to this one, which I think is really good. So you've got this lovely kind of sweet brown wholemeal sort of bread character on top of that. That lingers into the aftertaste, gives the beer a bit of dryness. In the middle of your palate, you get a bit more of an oily caramel in there. Then as you move further out toward the edge of the palate, you've got that biscuity note, that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing that I was talking about with this. Definitely the malt base on this is really, really nicely done, but the grainy brown bready character that you get on this one, it kind of gives you a little bit more of an English character. And the IPA, of course, is an old school English style, so this is quite interesting. It actually reminds me of the Opigord's India, I think it was just called India, if I remember rightly, that they did a number of years ago, like a proper old school English IPA. So it really reminds me of that. That's one of the first beers I tried when I went to Sweden. So yeah, really cool. So on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, a little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward, you do definitely get a bit of that deep floral aromatic spice. Also some big kind of sort of piney resinous components in there. So I'm thinking this might be a sort of Chinook Columbus hop combination that's in here. You definitely get some of the deep pine from the Chinook, but also the slight spiciness from the Columbus. Wouldn't be surprised if that's in there, but definitely early edition hops. Round the front curve of the palate, a bit lighter and grassy, a wee bit more oily, and I think that goes together very, very nicely for sure. Green component I'm impressed with in this. I've been annoyed that West Coast IPAs these days don't have much bitterness to them. This one is showing a little bit of that, so I like that for sure. Front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of things. Back of the front third of your palate, absolutely strong grapefruit in there, and that I think Cascade and the Chinook giving you that. Further forward though, I think there's maybe a wee touch of like passion fruit in this one. I think the mango, maybe a little bit of mango as well, so there could be a wee bit of citra in this one, but not 100% sure about that. I'm pretty sure there's Chinook and Cascade in it though, something like that. But yeah, stronger grapefruit as you come further forward, maybe a wee touch of like mango or something, but then as you move into the front half of the palate, it's that sort of oily, that kind of oily, slightly figgy note that you get from the Cascade, I think, that's coming out in this one. There's maybe a wee touch of like lemony zest or something, maybe a bit of Centennial, something like that in here that gives you the kind of lemony character. But this is a proper old school West Coast IPA. I haven't tried one like this in quite a wee while, so this is nice because I always used to love these beers. But of course it's the haze craze now. Everyone wants these hazy New England IPAs. I like the New England IPAs, but I want a few more beers out there like this one. This is really nice. Yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour. Mouthfeel wise, this one, top end of mid-bodied, smooth carbonation, nice oily kind of slickness to it, which I think is great. In terms of IBUs, I think this one might be pushing like sort of 70-ish IBUs, 60, 70 IBUs. The malt base, as we said, is nice and smooth, a bit grainy, but you've also got that big oily sweetness to it as well, which I think is great. The fruity side of things, definitely strong, pungent grapefruit and things like that. It works really, really nicely. Proper old school West Coast IPA this, and I'm really glad that we could try this. So yeah, if I was tasting it blind as well, I might think it's a bit stronger than 6.3. But yeah, this was the Magnetic Rock, a 6.3% West Coast IPA here at Magic River Brewing. That's tasting number 2. We'll be back soon with tasting number 3. So yeah, a little bit of artwork above the door there, which I didn't see earlier. Absolutely love African artwork with the flat trees and things. This is just very, very nice. And they've got this as well, Africa with elephants. What's not to like? Elephants are the best. There you go. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 3 then. So this beer is called These Nuts. It comes in at 7.8% ABV, and this one is being described as a nut brown ale. Now, those of you that have been watching the channel for years will remember that back in the day, Brooklyn Brown was one of the beers that really got me started on craft beer. And yeah, whenever I see a brown ale, I just feel like I have to try these. And this is the first one I've had on tap in a very, very long time. But yeah, These Nuts, 7.8% brown ale. I think it should be quite good. So, when this beer poured, it had over a finger of a lovely frothy, I would say kind of like fawn coloured head. You can see that there, it's got this lovely kind of just fawn note to it. But yeah, this beer is a lovely kind of dark chestnut, light chestnut I should say, dark mahogany kind of colour. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But as you can see, the colour of this beer is pretty awesome. You know, as you let the light go through it a little bit more, it shows you that it has a wee bit of a kind of coppery tint to it. But yeah, not often that you come across like an American brown ale these days. Even English brown ales are difficult to find. It's a style that's just kind of disappeared a little bit. But yeah, that's what I like about this tap room, is that they have quite a few unusual styles on the go here. But we're just passing through, so I can only do 4 beers for you. Unfortunately, I wish we could do more. But yeah, let's have a little look at the nose on this one then. Oh, that's really, really nice. Lovely, big, smooth character. Yeah, you get the nuts out of this one right away. The nut brown ale, so lovely. I do wonder if this is modelled on the AleSmith nut brown, actually. quite a well-known beer. But yeah, for me, backbone of this beer, absolutely. It smells really kind of smooth and woody in the backbone. You get that lovely, almost like smooth, oaky type woody character. I get a little bit of vanilla to it as well. But then you get the nice smooth nutty notes out of this one. I always find it difficult to say whether it's like pralines, pecans, exactly what, but it just has this lovely kind of sweet nutty note to it. Definitely a bit of vanilla, like I say, but for me the backbone of this beer is absolutely kind of, you know, smooth American oak type thing. Yeah, I do get a little bit of like a dry cocoa nibby chocolate out of this one, you know, maybe like a 40% cocoa chocolate, something like that, but it smells really dry like cocoa nibs. A little bit of a kind of bready character as well. I do get some kind of brown bready notes out of this one. And it's almost got a little bit of this, like, it almost smells a little bit like a kind of chocolate brownie in a sense, like a chocolate nut brownie. That's what I get, aroma-wise, from the malty side of this beer. Really nice. I'm very curious to try this actually. On the hoppy side of things, it's got a little touch of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character, a wee bit of a floral note, and you also have that nice kind of bright, grassy sort of note to it as well. But the hoppy side, I should point out, is not overly prominent. It's not madly prominent, I would say. Yeah, aroma-wise, this beer is very, very nice actually. I think it goes together really well on that. On the fruity side of things, for me, it's a little bit sort of, I would say it's a little bit kind of, you know, sort of red fruity. There's a little bit of an oily kind of figgy character to this one. You do get a little bit of that sharper raisin as well. And you've also got a little bit of, you know, you do get a little bit of this kind of candied strawberry, blackcurrant sort of thing to it as well. So it's a really nice smelling beer, this one, from a lot of different perspectives. It's quite unusual compared to anything I've had for quite a wee while. So let's taste this one then. This is These Nuts, 7.8% nut brown ale, obviously named after the presidential candidate from, what was it, 2 elections ago in America, if I remember rightly. But let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers, na zdravie. Ooh, that's really, really nice. Lovely, big, smooth, almost creamy beer, actually. That's really good. It's a lot more bready in the flavour profile than you would expect from the aroma as well. Lovely, lovely tasting beer. Yeah, I like it. So yeah, this one gets a big thumbs up from me. The other 2 beers were good, the Styrian Blonde and the Magnetic Rock, but this is the one that stands out to me so far. We still have one more to look at, but I think this is really nicely done. In terms of an American brown, it does everything you would want, but it's just a really well-crafted beer, and there's so many breweries out there these days, you can't really ask for much more than that. So let's break this beer down for you then. So, backbone of the beer. As I said, you've got this lovely, smooth, sort of American oaky, woody character coming out of this one. That forms the backbone of your beer. Gets a little bit drier the further back on the palate you go, but a little bit sweeter the further forward you come. There's a little touch of vanilla in there as well. On top of that, you've got that lovely, smooth, brown, bready character coming out of this one. And then toward the front of that middle third of your palate, you get all the nutty notes, the pecans, almonds, all of these kind of things. It's really difficult to place exactly what kind of nut it is, but yeah, the nutty side of this beer, really apparent, and it mixes in with all the kind of vanilla, and lighter woody kind of notes that you get out of this one. In the middle of your palate with this one, it's interesting because there's a good bit of sweetness to this beer too. Toward the back of that middle third of your palate, you get that sort of dry cocoa nibby character out of this one. But like I said, it's like a 40 kind of 50% cocoa chocolate coming out of this one, which I think is really quite nice. And that mixes in with some of the bready characters, so you get this bready layer on top of the woody notes there, that kind of brown wholemeal bready note. But the chocolate, the kind of cocoa nib that I'm saying, that comes out a little bit further back, absolutely. Yeah, so a little bit of that cocoa nibby note further back, but as you move further forward, the nutty character kind of penetrates the bready layer too. But on top of all of that, you've got this little circle in the middle of your palate, and that's the brown sugary side of things. So there is a little bit of that toasty brown sugar note underneath. and it's a little bit biscuity as you reach the extremities of the palate, but in the middle of your palate it has that oily sweet caramel, which I really quite like. Yeah, the way that this beer goes about its business, I think, is very, very nice. Nice big oily sweet caramelly note to this one. Yeah, malty base on this is absolutely lovely. So on the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of a kind of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, it becomes a little bit kind of floral, absolutely. But then round the front curve of your palate, it's a little bit lighter and more grassy. And yet, I mean, a brown ale, it's not the most hop forward of styles, but it does show you a really nice. It shows you a very, very nice little bit of hoppiness. It gives you that wee bit more depth to the beer, actually. So, front third of your palate and the fruity side of the beer. Let's look at that. So yeah, front third of your palate then. Smooth breadiness and woodiness forming the backbone. On top of that, you've got the oily fruits. At the back of that front third of your palate, for me, there's actually quite a little bit of a sort of sultana flavour, dried white green grapes, this sort of thing. So you get that. But as you move further forward, it shows you a little bit more of a kind of slightly like datey kind of thing, which is interesting. And then as you reach the front tip of the kind of front tip of your tongue, it shows you a little bit more of a red fruity note, like a very slight figgy character, a little bit of a black curranty sort of thing. So the fruity side of this beer is quite different to the aroma, but you know, doesn't make the beer any less good. So yeah, a little bit of difference in the fruity side of things between aroma and flavour profile. A little bit more dried fruity on the flavour, but a little bit more red fruity in the aroma. So to round off this one then with the mouthfeel, for me this is like a top end of mid-bodied beer, maybe bottom end of full-bodied. It is actually quite thick, this one. Carbonation is really smooth, nice big oily flavour, big oily mouthfeel to it. But yeah, the backbone of this beer is just really nice. For me, IBU wise, I think this is probably like 25, 30. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. Lovely big maltiness to it. It has got a good degree of sweetness as well, which I think is great. The maltiness, of course, when it's a brown ale, that's where the focus is, on the malty side of things. So yeah, it's got smoothness, sweetness, a little touch of dryness in there, and then you've also got that nice big juicy sweet character coming out of this one. Lovely, lovely brown ale, this one. So yeah, that was These Nuts, 7.8% ABV, a lovely beer. Not often you get to try a brown ale in one of these out and about videos, but very, very satisfied with this one. The best beer of the three that I've had so far, but maybe that's the fact that it's quite unusual. This is what I like on the channel, doing things that we don't find that often. But yeah, we have one more beer to have a look at for you, so we'll catch you with that in just a second. See you very soon. So yeah guys, if you have a few too many beers like me and come through to the bathroom, you'll get to see this, a little diagram of how they make beer. So I think it is pretty cool. And there is your man's room and your ladies' room. But yeah, this is pretty cool. There's also a thing over here, the Green Bay Packers. So yeah, I think that might be something from the American owner of the brewery. Alright guys, well, time for our fourth and probably final beer tasting then here at Magic River Brewing. And we have another style of beer to look at today that I don't get to try on tap all that often, but it is one of my favourite styles of beer. Those of you who have watched the channel for any length of time will know that I'm a big sucker for the brown sugary types of beer, my native Scotch ales, the German Doppelbocks, the Belgian quadruples, even some of the American barley wines and old ales and stuff like this. So it was really cool to see this one on tap here in Bovec in Slovenia, and this will be the first Slovenian example of this style that I've ever tried, so that's also pretty awesome. So yeah, for our fourth and final beer tasting then here at Magic River, we are going to have a little look at the off-season. So this one comes in at 12.7% ABV, so it's an absolute monster, and this is a quadruple. So yeah, when this beer poured, it had a finger of a nice ivory coloured head, but you can see this beer, it's a lovely kind of bright coppery colour actually. So remember, when it comes to the colour of your beer, it depends on the type of malts that you use, the length of your wort boil can affect it as well, but any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts can play a role in determining the colour as well. But mainly type of malts and the wort boil are the things. But this is a very light quadruple in terms of its colour. It's really quite coppery, in fact. I would describe that as a nice kind of coppery, slightly bronze colour. Quite often these beers are very sort of dark and mahogany and chestnutty, so that kind of piques my interest with this one a little bit as well. Tickles my fancy. But yeah, you can see there are a few bubbles visible in this one. You can see quite a steady stream of medium-sized bubbles going up towards the bottom of that head there, but it looks very, very nice, I have to say. But yeah, definitely one of the lighter quadruples I've come across in recent times. So yeah, let's look at the aroma of this one then and see how we go. Aroma-wise too, this is quite different. I'm really just curious to see what this is going to be like. Yeah. So for me, it's quite different to any quadruple I've had. The first thing I'm going to say about it is it doesn't jump out of the glass at you. It's not an overly pungent aroma, this one. It's actually quite subtle. And this one has been sitting for a little bit, because when it comes to these big high alcohol beers, you want them to sit for a little bit of time, air out and just open up. But yeah, this one, it really doesn't jump out the glass at you, which is quite interesting. But for me, you can smell a few characteristics of the quadruple right away. You've got a lovely little bit of that kind of brown bready bread crust in there. You can smell that big doughy Belgian yeast coming out of this one, so you do get a little bit of that in there. But again, it's very, very subtle. So as I say, a bit of bread crust, a bit of that doughy Belgian yeast. You can smell some nice sort of, it almost smells a little bit kind of honey-like a dry honey kind of character that you're getting out of this one. Sometimes these beers can be very oily and like treacle molasses kind of thing. But yeah, bread crust, absolutely some brown bread in there, that big doughy, yeasty kind of note. And then yeah, you have this sort of, as I say, almost honey-like note out of this one. It's got a little bit of that dry sort of honey character to it, which I really quite like. On the kind of malty side of things, as I say, you don't get too much of this big, highly caramelized sort of thing. It is actually like really light and just kind of biscuity in a way. So a lot of like McVitie's digestive biscuits, cookies for those of you who speak American English. It really has a lot of that vibe to it. There's definitely a bit of straight up caramel to it, but none of this like highly caramelized treacle molasses sort of thing coming out of it either. But yeah, aroma wise, for me, it seems, I think this is maybe quite a low or short time work while that this beer has had. So yeah, aroma wise, this is quite nice. One or two little nutty and woody characteristics coming out of it as well. These are all things that you can expect from this style. On the hoppy side of things for this beer, a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of herbal character, wee touch of floral note. These are all quite minimal, I will put that in there. The hoppy side of things, the green component really leans toward the grassy side of the spectrum for me. But yeah, interesting aroma, it certainly has my interest. On the fruity side of things, it's quite a dried fruity aroma that you get out of this. So sultanas for me, dry white green grapes, a little bit of a datey character, some apricots as well. It's really quite like that. Yeah, I think this goes together. I think it goes together really quite nicely actually. Really very different from the other quadruples I've had in recent times. So all I can say is, take a bit of time, enjoy the aroma of this, because compared to the other quadruples, this one's a lot lighter, a lot more dry fruity and things. Let's just have a taste of it and see how we go. So yeah, this is the off season. I nearly said out of season there, and I'd be annoyed at myself if I did that. But yeah, this is the off season, 12.7%, an absolute monster. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål, cheers, nazdravie. Here we go. Yeah, so it's a really nice beer, but it's actually quite different. As I say, as I was expecting from the aroma, this is quite different from the other quadruples that I've had in recent times. First thing is, it's very clean, but when you think about Slovenia and Slovenia's beer culture in general, that makes sense. Slovenia was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, same with Croatia, we've had Croatian beers recently. So they like their beers to be very sort of clean and drinkable. So you can see that with this one. That it's a really very just clean mountain water quadruple, but you can see outside these beautiful mountains. It'll be local water they're using. But yeah, It's quite nice. There's a load of shouting going there. I feel I'm battling. It's annoying. But yeah, so yeah, this one, as I say, lovely, just big oily, but still quite clean quadruple. So backbone of the beer then. A little bit of bread crust, as we say, that's always the backbone with this, but toward the front of the middle third of your palate, there's a wee bit of woodiness in there, a wee bit of nuttiness as well. Then on top of that, you've got that kind of wholemeal, brown bready sort of thing. It's almost like a German rye bread, actually. And with us being so close to Austria and Germany, I wouldn't be surprised if the malt base is German. So yeah, I like that. But there are malteries here in Slovenia, I will point that out. So, in the dead centre of your palate, on top of the kind of sweet brown bready notes, you can feel that in the dead centre of your palate, there's a big straight up sweet caramel note there, but as you move further out, it gets a little bit more honey-like, and a little bit more, it's a little bit honey-like, a little bit more biscuit-like as well, and actually a little bit toasty as well. So there's a whole range of things going on with the brown sugars in this beer, which is really quite interesting. So yeah, I'm pretty convinced with this one that it hasn't got such a long wort boil. You can kind of tell from the colour with this as well, because normally these beers, as I say, would be more of a kind of dark chestnutty kind of colour. So I think this is just a little bit, it's maybe not the kind of, I think it's about 4 to 6 hours they often use with the quadruples in Belgium. But I think this one feels a lot lighter than that. The sugars aren't quite as big and leathery and things like that. So sweet caramel, as I say, a little bit of honey, a little bit of kind of sweet biscuit, and a wee bit of a toasty brown sugar underneath this one as well. But I really like that. As I say, the brown bread is underneath. A few woody and nutty aromas come out a little bit later. The flavours come out a little bit later on. Then you've also got the kind of yeasty note a little bit at the back of the palate too. You can feel that more dense, doughy, bready, almost very slightly banana type yeast coming out of this one on the back third of your palate. On the hoppy side of things, it's quite subtle, but remember the quadruple is not the most hoppy of styles. Back corners of the palate, it's a little bit kind of earthy. As you move further forward, it's a little bit more herbal as well. Then as you reach the front corners of the palate, a little bit floral, but these are all quite subtle. Round the front curve of the palate, it's a bit brighter and grassy. There's a little touch of zest to this one, and I think it suits that quite nicely actually. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, this is quite interesting. At the back of that front third of the palate, it's a little bit more like a kind of fruit loaf sort of thing, like a sweet brown fruity bread. As you move further forward, it's a little bit datey, a little bit kind of sultana-like. You've got a lot of that going on. And as you reach the front tip of the palate, it gets a little bit more, there's a little bit of a kind of red figgy note to it. You've also got a wee bit of a kind of oily, peary character going on with this one as well. It's got all the fruity things you'd expect. Like sometimes, as I say, you can get these quadruples that are a little bit more deep and red fruity. This one certainly shows you a bit more of the kind of brighter styles. The kind of brighter side of the style, I should say. At 12.7% as well, the alcohol will go to your head. I can kind of feel that, but we've had a few beers to taste before this one as well. But this is it's very interesting, but it is a well done beer. I would be curious to see them try one that's got a little bit more of a longer wort boil and leans toward that more kind of treacly molasses side of things, and also the kind of red fruity side of the spectrum with the quadruple. But yeah, I like how this one goes about its business. It's an interesting beer, and again, that's what we like on Rampant Lion Reviews. After 3,000 odd beers, we want things that are going to test the palate and be interesting, and this one certainly has done that. So I'm glad that I picked this one. On the mouthfeel side of things then, for me, this one is quite kind of mid-bodied. It's kind of bottom end of full-bodied. Carbonation is really smooth. It does have a wee bit of crispness to it in fairness, so yeah, kind of smooth carbonation, but still a little bit crisp at the same time. Slightly oily, still feels very clean. Obviously the mountain water you saw outside the beautiful mountains here in Bovec. And yeah, IBUs, I think it's about 15, 20, something like that. The malt base is really, I think, good balance between dryness, smoothness and sweetness in there. Then you've also got that big juicy fruity character as well. But yeah, I'd say there's a little bit of fruity dryness in there too. So a really interesting quadruple. I think this one goes together very, very well. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. But yeah, that is the end of your 4th tasting then here at Magic River Brewing in Bovec. So let's kind of leave it there. We'll see if we do one more, see how my cousin's feeling. He's outside drinking a lager. I came inside because it was a bit quieter to film. So maybe we'll do one outside in front of the mountains, but can't promise you anything yet. But this was very, very nice. Let's leave it there for tasting number 4. Alright guys, well, that is the end of my time here at Thirsty River Brewing in Bovec. And one thing I've just realised when I've come outside, I've been saying Magic River throughout the video. So yeah, I do apologise for that. I don't know why I had it in my head that the name of the brewery was Magic River, but you know, sometimes these things happen. But yeah, the guys behind the bar were great. Eva sat and explained a lot of things with me. She showed me how to park properly and so on. So that was really cool. There's a special app here in Slovenia called Easy Park that you have to use if you're parking anywhere. So we had to figure out how to sort out the car and things like that, which was great. But yeah, no, the guys behind the bar were awesome. In total, I paid 17 euros for my cousin's 2.5 litres and for my tasting flight. But yeah, it was great. So I guess that's probably about 11 euros, maybe 10 euros for my tasting flight. So that works out at like £9 sterling, maybe $11 or $12 American. But yeah, this was a really cool, quite random find here in Bovec. And the Slovenian Alpine region is absolutely beautiful. We drove through it today. We're going to go and find our hostel to stay in now. But yeah, if you get the chance to visit Bovec, the drive up here is absolutely beautiful. And the town itself is very nice too. So yeah, this is Thirsty River Brewing here in Bovec. Come and check out these guys. Their beers are pretty nice. They do some unusual styles, so you're going to have a nice time here. So yeah, catch you guys on the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your own thoughts on this place in the comment section below if you have visited. And yeah, there will be more out and about videos coming from Slovenia very, very soon. See you guys shortly.